You know that feeling, right? You've been cramming for hours, your brain feels like it's run a marathon, but when you step back, you feel like you've learned absolutely nothing. It's so frustrating. Well, it turns out you're not crazy, and you are definitely not alone. So today, let's get into the science behind this feeling and figure out what is really going on in our heads.
It kind of leads to this big question. Does feeling the burn when you're studying, does that mental sweat actually mean you're learning less? So many of us believe that if it feels that hard, it must not be working. But is that really true?
Well, there's actually a name for this exact thing. Researchers call it the effort paradox. And for years, it's been a real puzzle in learning science. But a major new study has finally started to untangle this relationship between how hard learning feels versus how much we actually learn.
And the answer comes from this massive 2024 meta-analysis. Now, if you're not familiar, think of a meta-analysis as a mega-study. Instead of just one experiment, these researchers grabbed the data from 83 different studies. We're talking nearly 4,000 participants to get the most solid, reliable answer they possibly could.
Okay, so to really solve this paradox, we first need to get our heads around the three main concepts the researchers were investigating. Let's break them down one by one.
First up, you've got perceived mental effort. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's not some objective brain scan. It's your own personal gut feeling of how hard your brain is grinding away. It's that burn we keep talking about.
Next is something called monitoring judgments. This is your internal gut check, right? Your guess about how well you're actually getting the material. A much easier way to think about it is just your learning confidence. It's that little voice that's either saying, "Yep, I got this," or "Uh-oh, I am totally lost."
And finally, of course, the one that really matters, learning outcomes. This is the bottom line. It's the objective, measurable result. It's not about how you feel. It's about what you can actually prove you know on a test or when you're solving a problem.
All right, so we have the burn, we have our confidence, and we have the results. Now let's get to the juicy part, the core findings, and see how this mega study connected these three players.
So the first major connection they found is captured by this number right here, -0.19. This little number represents the relationship between how hard you feel like you're working and how confident you are that you're actually learning anything.
So what does -0.19 actually mean? Well, it means the relationship is inverse. It's super clear. The more intense that mental burn gets, the more our learning confidence just plummets. When something feels really tough, we instinctively start to believe we're failing at it.
Okay, but what about the next link in the chain, the one between our confidence and our actual test results? Well, here the study found a clear positive relationship, and they measured it at +0.29.
And this one just makes total sense, right? It probably won't surprise you at all. The study confirmed that the more confident you feel, the better you actually tend to do. When we believe we understand something, we generally perform better. So yeah, confidence really matters.
Okay, so this brings us to the million-dollar question. We know effort crushes our confidence, and we know confidence boosts our scores. But what happens if you take confidence out of the middle? What is the direct link between that feeling of effort and our final grade?
And here it is. This is the big twist. The researchers found no significant direct link. Zero. That feeling of burn doesn't directly mean you're learning less or more for that matter. The connection isn't a straight line at all. It's more like a hidden chain reaction.
And this indirect link, this is what reveals a massive blind spot in how we all judge our own learning process. So let's break down exactly what's happening inside our heads.
So here's the hidden chain reaction the study uncovered. Step 1, you feel that high mental effort, that burn. Step 2, your brain interprets that feeling as a sign of failure, and it absolutely tanks your confidence. And then step 3, just like we saw, that lower confidence is linked to worse performance on the actual test.
You know, the study's authors really sum it up perfectly. It's not the effort itself that's sinking your learning. It's the crisis of confidence that the effort creates. The feeling of effort is just a cue, a piece of information that we're all misinterpreting.
This really puts the myth and the reality right next to each other. We all tend to believe the myth. High effort leads directly to poor learning, but the reality is much more nuanced. High effort leads to low confidence, and that is what's linked to the poor results. It's a subtle difference, but it's an incredibly important one.
So, what does this all mean for you? Well, the big takeaway is this. That feeling of effort, it's a terrible speedometer for learning. It's way more like engine noise. You know, it tells you the engine is running, that work is happening, but it tells you absolutely nothing about how fast you're going, or even if you're going in the right direction. So you have to be really cautious about trusting that feeling of failure that comes along with working hard. Instead, focus on concrete evidence. Can you actually solve a practice problem? Can you explain the concept out loud to a friend? That's the real measure of learning, not just the noise in your head.
And that leaves us with one last question, something for you to think about. The next time you sit down to learn something new, just pay attention. What cues are you using to judge your own progress? Are you listening to the engine noise, or are you actually checking the speedometer?